No, I'm going into space before I die. That is 100%. I'm waiting for I need like it's my salary and the
That's the problem.
I want to go out
cost
like
to
John
converge,
Hurt
like
in Contact.
That comes down.
You've got the confidence, Mike. I really want to. I ain't got that kind of confidence. I'm like, I would really like to.
I think it'll be cheap by the time we're old.
You think?
The gravity,
I think
the lack of gravity is the only thing
like
that is
other
keeping
worlds,
the
but like going out of the atmosphere for 20 minutes. Yeah, for sure.
Well, I have been on a zero-G
100%.
flight, and that's not quite the same. It's just a cool thing that I did that cost $12,000. Thankfully,
I got the same kind of invite, and I didn't take it, and I've regretted it ever since. Because I think it's interesting.
Very cool.
I was on a zero-G flight for a second, but that's just because
that's called landing.
Well, no, we dropped really quickly, and I was like, "Oh, that's what it feels like." I don't like roller coasters, and I don't for that specific reason. I hate that feeling. Hate it.
The dropping feeling.
Yeah. Skydiving, love, because you never get the feeling of dropping.
Other than the Earth racing towards you.
Well, you're dropping the whole time, but it doesn't feel like you're dropping.
Because you start out already moving at 9.8 meters per second per second. So you just tumble out.
Yeah, it's really specific.
Per second squared, yeah.
I think we need to...
per second.
Troy needs
you're right.
to have...
So it's an acceleration. You're absolutely right. That would be a square. Apologies. Sorry, my nerdy
fuck
numerical...
up programmer.
I was going to say, yeah, Mike, I'm amazed. Yeah. I'm amazed that wasn't...
You're right. It's an accelerating value. It would be a square. You're absolutely right. I'm sorry for judging or questioning it. I'm sorry, Troy. I've betrayed you. I'm sorry.
Troy's John Hurt...
John Hurt
needs to be exposed slightly. It was lost in the maelstrom there.
I felt like it was quite good. He spoke about cancer.
It was that because what you said. I once had a conversation with a friend of mine, and he was saying we were talking about the ideal ways to die, and it was like if you know you have a terminal disease. And you're like your number's up soon, and you would rather end on your own terms. What do you do? And so I said, well, I think the contact get blasted in a one-way trip into space is probably my go-to. But there's something to be said about the idea of the adrenaline rush of leaping off the edge of the Grand Canyon or something. So it was like, why not combine the two?
That one. I've thought about this. Mine's definitely heroin overdose. That's what if I'm, going out.
Just bliss out. Just
hot
bliss
on the heroin
all the way to the wall.
Yeah. Okay. But I think the issue with like a jumping off a building or a falling off a canyon is that the adrenaline rush.
Fucking show.
The adrenaline rush. I love it. That you would
this is
get
my vibe
from
right
that.
now. I'm super compelled. I'm like, this is.
I think you would regret it as you're falling.
But that's the beauty of it. There's it's too bad.
But I don't want my last thought when I'm trying to go out to be, shit, I should reconsider.
Yeah, you're fighting too many like pre-programmed
survival instincts.
Things.
Yeah,
you're having like a biological reaction to fear at that point, which is not a fun, I imagine that's not a fun way to go.
Yeah, and it's like you can't drown yourself. Like your body at one point will take over and go, you're stupid. We're going to do whatever we can to survive.
Yeah.
I imagine that would be very hard. Well, anyway, I think combining the two, I think getting blasted into space on a collision course with like Mars would be the ultimate combination of the two.
Go, Mike Bethel.
I'm just thinking, like, if one were to set up a trampoline at the bottom of the Grand Canyon, could one combine the two? So you go down and then you shoot up and hit an escape velocity.
That's quite a trampoline.
I legitimately
very long or very
my
well
science
aimed.
teacher.
Very well
aimed.
Your
legs would break the minute you fell into it.
True.
You just wouldn't.
But I was like,
I think the science checks out. I really do. I think the science checks out.
In my physics class, I was like, I have a question. And the teacher was like, yes. I said, talking about falling and everything. She's like, yes. And I said, so if I was falling on a rock, she goes, right. And I said, at the last moment, I jumped up or I stepped off to the side. I was like, would I not make it? And she was like, why would you think that? I was like, because there's a certain coyote that always seems to be able to do that.
There's a whole.
I just want to know.
There was a whole MythBusters about this, the variation on this of jumping in a falling elevator. Mm-hmm. and showing that pushing off of a thing accelerating at that speed does not take away the fact that you're also still accelerating at that speed.
Yeah, I
thank you for solving that mystery.
You know how you have like friends who are pretty dumb, but entertainingly dumb. Hey.
We built a show around that concept, right? Like,
so there's a guy I know who intentionally does it because it's funny, but with trains. Like every time he's on a train, he'll jump and he'll be like, I just don't understand why I don't move back when the train's moving forward. He'll do it every single time. And people are like, what are you trying to do? But then I also understand if you were a kid, why that logically wouldn't make sense. You'd be like, but I should be staying still and the train should be moving, even though you are moving with the train.
This is Einstein's thing. It's like you're not you couldn't jump off that and move faster than it. Like so, the whole right?
Shall I pull this to game? Shall I bring this to video games? Shall I bring this home? Because so interestingly, what we're describing here is something that game designers have to deal with all the time. Because you understand that if you jump on a train, you're not going to fly backwards because the train's moving. But that's because of a step in your brain, which is intellectualizing the problem, and your immediate reaction would be, no, things go things stay where they are, and then your knowledge and your intelligence takes over from your intuition and gives you the right answer to the problem. In game design, often we're genuinely having conversations about, okay, what's the childlike response to this problem? And you're often playing to that rather than the intellectual, because you don't want the player I'm trying to think of an example of this from a game, but like when you reload a gun. Most games, when you reload a gun, it takes the 5 bullets that are in the chamber and adds on as many bullets as are needed, but you don't lose the bullets that were in the gun, right? Mm-hmm. Because your immediate kind of intuitive understanding of reload gun is, I'm going to put some more bullets in this gun. If you think about it for a second, you're like, no, I'd have to remove a clip and put another one in, and you're going to lose that.
I always appreciate it when every now and again I play a first-person shooter that actually makes you lose the bullets that you were holding if you reload prematurely. And I'm like, somebody actually
when we look... Exactly, but when we look, and John Wick did that as well, actually.
I think Perfect Dark did that.
Yeah, when you look at playtest data, though, often you find people say in YouTube comments that they want the intellectual correct thing, but actually when they're playing, the thing they enjoy and the thing they respond well to is the kind of the less intellectualized, because you're in the flow, you're enjoying a game. So it's interesting, that idea of the kind of childlike, this feels like it should work this way, is something that comes up so much in game design, because you often have to design to that rather than the reality, and then work out a way to frame that so that when you think about it for a second, you don't think it's stupid.
That's procedurally generated content.
No,
and that's procedurally generated content.
I've been waiting so patiently.
Mike, is it also...
You're like, soon. Shut up, Mike, soon.
No, wait.
Mike, is it also fair to say that
it is.
When designing games, a lot of our intuited understanding of the world, you have to kind of step through as part of the design process, because a game being made from scratch won't have a lot of the built-in assumptions. Like in our train example, if I have a character, like say it's a 2D side-scrolling game and there's a train, like from a programming standpoint, the software does not have the built-in knowledge of physics unless you're buying into something that already has that baked in, pre-made engine or something. Because
generally that train's not moving, the world is.
Yeah.
Well, that's actually a separate, that's like the cheat. But what I
Oh, you mean you have to literally program in?
But I mean, like,
real world stuff doesn't exist unless you put it into the simulation.
Yeah, like
physics don't just inherently belong in a game.
Yeah, exactly. That was my.
That is
very.
Neither should they. You don't want.
Of course,
the
true,
real
but it's really weird to think about that. It's like you have to make all the physics. They aren't just there. That is an odd thing to think about.
And you have to make
what do you
think
mean you
the
don't
physics
want
are.
Physics?
You don't want real world physics in your games. Real world physics are boring. You don't. I'm telling you what you want. I'm telling you, that's procedural generation, motherfucker.
Is it like the rate, like the running rate? Like we did this thing on Second Son. Is like if you actually mapped how fast Delson was running, it's like Usain Bolt is an old man.
Yeah.
It's stupid.
Yeah, but he's
covering too much ground.
It's the speed. So literally, like if you've got a game with any kind of interactive physics, you're probably running that at half speed. So an object would fall at half the speed it would in the real world. Because for you to have reaction time interaction with those objects, you need to be able to see those. Things happen too fast in the real world. The reason that you don't have lightning reflexes in real life, but you have them in games, is because games are often running the world a little bit slower for you.
I have terrible reflexes, but thank you for assuming the best of me.
But what if that's also because we have kind of we have to deal. I'm pulling on this interface, right? That says this you have to. There's there's too many factors at play that are preventing me from doing that. Does that change even incrementally if it's VR?
That's
changes. So I can go. Do you want my brains are bullshit fact of the podcast?
I want both in a nice bowl and just eat it like a.
Okay. So here's my favorite fact I found out in the last couple of days, and I bored my team senseless with this earlier.
I can't wait. It's a great setup.
If you've got, I know Troy will within handy reach have a pair of sunglasses. Do you have a pair of sunglasses, Troy?
I don't.
That genuinely shocks me. Okay, yeah.
Troy
so if you
Troy.
put. Okay, Alana's going to be the one then that has the what moment.
Wait. Yes, I do.
I hope she comes back with a full beard and hat too.
If you put one sunglasses lens on your right eye, Alanah, put it over if you can, angle them so just over your right eye. Yeah, it's weird. You don't have to hold it for a while there, but yeah. So if you put that over your right eye and you watch footage of basically stuff moving left to right, like a view out a train window, I just noticed, Troy, and it's glorious.
How did he do that?
If you watch moving footage, that footage will appear 3-dimensional to you.
Yeah, so your hand just did that. Can you do that to your hand again? Move your
so
hand
if I move my hand right to left, it becomes 3D, right?
Yeah, it does. Or at least it looks like I'm looking through a 3D camera.
A 3D movie, yeah.
Yeah.
Let me just tell you, that's 3.
Oh, it's a shame.
I was so close. That was 3.
So it'll work if you want to do it later. Anyone who wants to do this at home, I'm going to get there in a second. So anyone who does it at home, do it with high. The higher the frame rate footage, the better it looks.
Yeah, when I go here, I can't see it.
Troy is such a derailing.
He's a village idiot today.
So the science is your brain takes longer to process darker images because there's less high contrast data there. So it takes your brain about 1/30th of a second longer to process an image if you're in a dimly lit environment than if you're in a bright environment.
Wow.
There's a lag. There's basically like a screen, like a CRT. Someone in my team mentioned earlier is like CRT with fighting games you want to play on old TVs. It's exactly the same thing. There is a controller lag in your brain for dimly lit stuff. So what happens with right to left movement, it only works on things that are in motion, is that if it's in motion, your right eye is essentially viewing the image one frame behind your left eye, and therefore it's creating that stereoscopic split on an object moving left to right.
No way.
If it's moving from left to right, you're right.
I forget if it's right to left. Right to left makes it feel like it's coming towards you, and left to right makes it feel like it's going away. Anyone at home can do this. Just literally put sunglasses on your right eye and watch footage of any parallaxy thing happening out of a window, and it will come 3D to you.
But isn't that basically how the physics of 3D glasses work anyway? Because aren't the one lens polarized.
Well, that's more about the directionality of light. Well, it's one of two things.
But isn't that achieving the same exact thing?
It's the same idea, yeah. Different image in each eye. What's interesting here is that the image on the screen, so when I was moving my hand back and forth and it looked like my hand was 3D coming out of the screen at Alanah, you didn't see like a ghosted image on Troy and Austin's screen. It looks just like normal video, as good as my webcam ever looks. Sorry, I'm being really nerdy and boring, but it's an interesting thing about your brain. So to answer your question, Troy, yes, adding a controller to your hands adds in lag. But even sitting and playing a game on a dimly lit screen will also introduce lag into your feedback process. If your screen is too dark, you will, by definition, have, or if when you're walking in the street at night, your reaction time is about 1/30th less because you're seeing an image from further back in time.
Humans are stupid. But I mean, at least we filter out our own noses. At least we trick ourselves not to see our noses. I do know with VR specifically, Troy, that, and I'm sure I would have said this on the show before because it's one of my favorite facts. If you are playing a game in VR, you will remember it as though it is a real memory, not as though it was a memory you had of playing a game. Because, when you see something that distinct, it's right in front of you, there isn't the room setting around you. Your brain is just like, yeah, I went and did that in Resident Evil 7. I've been to that house. You will remember layouts better in VR. You'll remember virtually everything better. So you could be better at a video game if you played it in VR for a while and then played it out of VR. In theory, you would have a better memory of the systems.
That's really cool.
Because your brain doesn't go, nah, throw that away. I was just playing a stupid video game. It goes, I was the pilot. Maybe I am the squadron. And then you just remember
That's
how to do
scary
it.
with horror games, right? That people might theoretically you could make a game that would give someone like PTSD. That's
That's the first place I went also. Like, the idea of playing a game, like the first thing I thought of was the leaps of faith in Assassin's Creed, where it's like I picture you having a year of therapy to like get over this traumatic
or the murder, all of the murder that you did.
Yeah,
so I'm not going to say which, but I've been in a talk. I've been like in a briefing from one of the companies that makes VR equipment, and literally that's a slide. They literally use Uncharted as the example. They say, please don't make Uncharted because we genuinely don't know yet how much an experience like Uncharted in VR would mess with someone if it was good enough.
I don't know.
It's genuinely something they're scared of.
Can you? You probably can, and I'm just not familiar with it. But maybe one of you does know. Can you get PTSD from something that is not real?
Oh my god!
That's what I'm saying. Is if you could short circuit the part of your brain, as you say, and make it feel like a real location and a real memory. Maybe theoretically, I don't know.
I feel like because memories are so subconscious, that seems a little bit different. Like that's the same as why you get motion sickness in VR, right? Is because your eyes think that what you're seeing is real, but your body recognizes that you aren't moving. So the disconnect.
This is one of the coolest facts that Mike Bithell has ever shared with me. Besides the fact that he has 6 toes on one foot,
it's true.
Is
7 on the other.
7. It's a weird. He just walks. You ever want? He's like a weird foot follower.
It's like splayed like that.
Those are cool facts.
If we ever turn into an aquatic world.
Oh, you Brits!
If he walks long enough in a straight line, it does eventually become a circle.
Yeah. But like an elliptical. It's weird.
And that's true of anyone walking around the Earth. If we're being particularly nerdy.
It's the fact that the reason why is because your body believes it's been poisoned, so it's eject.
That's one of the theories.
That is fantastic. Is there any? Films have had the same thing, right? Like there's a potential. The impact that Jaws had sociologically for people at the beach was measurable.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Led to a spike in shark killing as well.
Really?
I think I remember reading ecological impact, like more sharks were killed as a result of the popular consciousness kind of becoming aware of. No, it's obviously not all Spielberg's fault. It's actually whose fault is it, Austin?
It's the viewers.
The best special effect in that movie. There it is.
Jaws.
Then, I don't know.
The shark's called Jaws.
Actually, you know what's funny about me? You know what's funny about that's the Family Guy joke.
Wait, the
sequel
name
is called Bigger Jaws. Only according to Peter Griffin.
I thought the shark's name was Jaws.
Yeah. And then the kid is in the sequel, Jaws 2, obviously.
The funny...
Jaws the second.
Sharks have very boring naming conventions.
No, my name is
It's a very regal system. Yeah, patriarchy
Jaws was my father.
That's
a family name.
Trying to get out from under his legacy. The funny thing with demoing the music on the piano is that back in those days, nowadays we have computers, right? That you you mock up everything. You can make these pretty realistic renderings before you ever hire any musicians. But in those days that was not the case. You basically it was a 2-step process. Spielberg goes over to John Williams' house. He plays around on the piano and says, "This is kind of what I'm thinking." And then it's like, okay, that seems like maybe that's on the right track. We'll see you in a month at the recording session with, the 90-piece orchestra. So sure enough, John Williams literally is, all right, hear me out. And Spielberg laughed and was like, no, but really, what are you planning? And he was like, just trust me. And so he trusted him and won an Oscar for it. and literally, I think it's arguably the most iconic piece of film music ever written by anyone for any film. There's only one thing that I think can even go toe-to-toe with it.
So Justin Timberlake's I'm Loving It.
Oh, that was good. That was better.
I'm Alone 2.
I like how Mike gave a better Alanah answer than Alanah did.
That's true.
I thought Justin Timberlake's I'm Loving It was
so deep.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. Pretty well known.
That's not Justin Timberlake.
I'm Loving It is Justin Timberlake.
Right, but that's not who wrote it.
Who wrote it?
That's probably true. He probably did not write it. I would believe you.
I don't know.
I'm just letting this all play out.
The song is by Justin Timberlake.
I'm Loving It?
Yeah.
I'm Loving It is just the McDonald's logo.
Yeah.
Pusha T wrote the song.
Yeah.
There you go.
Do you know who wrote like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. That
I've never heard of that in my life, sir.
Never heard that too.
Really?
You Deserve a Break Today was the original McDonald's one. You deserve a break today at McDonald's. Ever heard that one? Oh, thank heaven.
No. Didn't make it to Australia or in the UK, those
Quite
ones.
foreign. Our McDonald's dad's like, come to Macca's, mate. Get yourself a burger.
Come on.
What's Burger King Hungry Jack
You'll
down in
bloody love it.
Australia?
Get yourself some Hungry Jacks.
Hungry Jacks.
I
Go on,
even did
man.
my own accent incorrectly.
No, Barry Manilow wrote like State Farm, 7-Eleven, McDonald's. He like wrote all of these jingles. And then the guys from Deep Blue something, I think, or some 90s band wrote Oh Thank Heaven for 7-Eleven and made like a gajillion dollars.
Well, you know who wrote the Flintstones vitamins? You remember that, like, 10 million strong or whatever, and ends with the little kid going and growing. You know who wrote that?
Randy Newman.
You wish.
You got a vitamin.
A little bit.
That was written by the Halo composer Marty O'Donnell before he got into games. And and growing is his daughter singing in the original ad.
And growing. Shut up, Denise. I'm trying to make a song. Oh, do you guys like that? We can use the girl. She's free.
I met Marty once and I complimented him on a specific track in Halo that I loved, and it was the only track in the Halo soundtrack that he didn't write.
Nailed it.
I remember a friend of mine did the same thing with the movie Liar Liar. That was one where James Newton Howard was hired to write the score and then got another job and basically had to leave and goes, there's a composer, John Debney, who I think could take over very well. So they kept James's main theme and John adopted that and wrote the rest of the score. And I have a friend who once met John, and first thing out of his mouth was, I love your theme to Liar Liar so much.
Oh.
And it's like, well, thanks.
Oh, you do?
No candidates for my runner-up most iconic piece of film music of all time?
I said 2001, but that doesn't really count because that's
absolutely does not count. It was not licensed.
And you're just wrong, Troy.
Alanah, go ahead and kick him out for the
Pacific Rim. I'm gonna stake my claim.
Pacific Rim. That score
soundtrack is incredible.
Bafflingly popular. It is.
It's because it's good, Austin. It's because it's really good. That's
I don't deny that it's
feel
good,
like Star Wars.
No. You could play that on your keyboard and you'd love it.
I mean, that's it. It's Ramin Djawadi. Who would have thought that his Pacific Rim score would be damn near as popular as his Game of Thrones score? Star Wars is not a bad guess, but I think this wins. The reason I would put this above in the league of Jaws, there's two criteria that come to mind for me. Number one is it is such a small little thing, literally 2 notes. You can boil it down to something so tiny and still get it. And on top of that, it's so ingrained in the culture that even little kids who've never even seen Jaws know what that means. And this is true for the other one.
It just means shock.
And it means danger.
Oh, it's true for the other one as well.
It's true.
Tubular bells?
Everything I just said. I love how Troy's just fully committed to this. Oh, there he is.
I did mute him. I don't know if he's aware of that. I manually muted him.
Oh, that's hilarious.
He's muted John Hurt, actually. You know that.
I muted John Hurt.
Jump scare the entire...
I could stop his video, but...
Let's see how long we can hold that. Already done.
So what is it, Austin?
It's literally, basically just... That's the note. It's all
Psycho?
Psycho.
Yeah, you're right.
You know what that means without having even seen the movie.
And you only have to do one note.
And it's literally boiled down to something so...
It's 3 notes. Thank you, Troy.
It's actually it's actually a minute long
just
cue.
Just on you playing one note, for fuck's sake.
But that's the point.
Oh my God.
Case in point, I played one thing on the piano and you got it. To me, that is...
So you're saying the next innovation is like half a note, right? It's like
exactly.
Like someone reaching for the keyboard. That would be the...
Speaking of horror scores, I did Google it, and it turns out that you cannot get PTSD from something that is not real. It has to be considered to be a traumatic event, and an event cannot be something that you observe digitally or read or...
Based upon what?
But you could trick someone into thinking it was real, though.
That's exactly. Like, is that just a clinical definition that they won't define?
I'm just saying from like a futuristic holodecky nonsense perspective.
No, I think in VR you probably could if you tricked someone, but I guess the event thing is more that it has to be.
Cue the Ian Malcolm commentary.
Yeah, here's some like anecdotal stuff. Like I know people, and I even had this thing where I saw something in a theater. Oh, you can think about maybe even your own life, but definitely I'm sure you've heard a story of someone saying, oh my God, I have a thing about spiders because when I was a kid, I saw blank, or I watched Raiders of the Lost Ark and I saw snakes and I just can't deal with that. That I'm not saying that that's clinical post-traumatic stress disorder.
Of course not.
But that is a level of
fear that came from fiction. Yeah.
Fear that came from something that your mind knows isn't real, but you still associated with that. You're like, I don't do.
Yeah, like how many people have said, I saw it when I was 9 years old, and I'm just clowns. Clowns are I can't
do clowns.
Done forever.
Well, isn't that phobia as well? Like again, like the shark killing thing. Wasn't there a specific spike in that as a phobia among children because of that movie? Right, like they literally tracked clowns when culturally, obviously kids have always been afraid of various things, but like culturally, clowns as a key core phobia specifically ties into that into the Tim Curry TV movie. I'm sure I've read that somewhere.
I think there's that. I also remember Outbreak, the movie Outbreak with Dustin Hoffman.
The monkey.
Yeah,
from Friends.
The fact that
the same monkey.
The same monkey
Sorry.
as.
Is it the same monkey from Friends in Outbreak?
As Marcel, you mean?
Is it Marcel? Is it Marcel in Outbreak?
See, this is why
is that like a famous monkey? Sorry.
Was that from Seinfeld too? I have no idea. I lived the 90s. I didn't watch the shows of the 90s.
Right, Granddad.
I didn't have to watch TV about it. I was a sitcom. They even build their marketing campaign is like, this will do for theaters what Jaws did for the ocean. And because there's a scene in Outbreak where someone who's sick goes to the theater and sneezes, and everybody that's in the theater ends up catching this deadly disease. And I remember when that happened, just the factor of what was happening on screen, people in the theater were like, I can't, and people left the theater, and it really did have a direct impact.
Well, they take any kind of plane crashes out of movies that you see on planes.
Yeah.
I was in a plane and they didn't do that with a movie.
Which one?
And I was freaked out by it. What was it? It was something...
Dark Knight Rises, they hadn't done that for me one time.
There was one, I can't remember what it was, but I remember being genuinely like, really? We're leaving that
Makes me want to watch the movie Alive, where it's like, I don't understand the premise of this movie at all. Why are they there?
I think it's always so funny when you watch a movie with a sex scene. And
there's like a 3-year-old child next to you.
And you're there's no way you don't want to look affected, but then you look like sociopathic if there's just like two people just banging on the screen in front of you.
I find kids. That's always a kid.
I watched like almost a whole season of Big Little Lies. It's the name of the show, and Nicole Kidman. Her character is in an abusive relationship, and sometimes that abusive relationship is like extremely sexual. And I was watching that show, and there's a little girl sitting next to me the whole flight. And every time I'm like, fuck, and I would try to hide it from her, but then because I was obviously hiding it, she got extra curious, and at one point was like, "What are you hiding?" I was like,
"This woman's she's in a very bad relationship, and she needs to get out."
I was so annoyed by it. I was like,
she grew up, and she's Australian, so I have to watch it.
You don't know. It's not.
She's a national treasure. I can't turn it off. There's a law.
It's legally required. I'm flying home.
They feed you to a dingo if you turn off Nicole Kidman.
I think I was flying home as well, but it was infuriating.
Watch like 3 Pixar movies back to back as a kid was sat next to me, and I just couldn't put anything else on in good faith. The other
Thank you for bringing your 9-year-old.
Like a heavily censored, like flying in between heavily censored countries is really interesting because you have like, I watched one movie and it was like literally like there were like shots. I think there was a beach scene, people in bikinis, and they were blurred from like the chin downwards, just an entire whenever they were shown in bikinis or shown.
Dude, I was in Bahrain,
and
we were it became a joke. We would like text each other back and forth and go, "See if you can Google this," and it was like. how off could you get? Like, okay, what if we did? It's like, what combination could you somehow trick the algorithm of the entire country? And go, don't look at porn. Don't look at porn.
Oh my god, I would absolutely go for like a hunt to see if I could find boobs. And big bahongas. Nope, not allowed. You just look for anything. That'd be amazing.
Anything. It became such a great little joke. You're like,
that'd be fun.
Because you would see like the little wheel go, maybe. Nope. This has been blocked by this country.
That's probably the most valuable thing tourists bring to the country at that point, where they're like
search engines.
There's all this new traffic on odd, novel things, and they're like, oh, good, new data for us to
walk. Fucking humanity, man. It's like the worst.
Exactly. I watched 2 billboards on a flight. And they censored every single swear word in that movie, which I absolutely love that movie. No. They replaced the words. So there was one where they were like, I love your car. Shorts. And I was like, she loves his car? Why is that relevant in this scene? And then I realized like it was a vaguely sexual scene. And I was like, oh. But the whole scene, every sexual word she says was like car, pants. not even heard up. It was an absolutely incredible way to watch that rather serious film.
Are you
and
talking
my first
about
time watching it.
3 billboards outside of Ebbing, Missouri?
Yeah.
No, you're talking about the prequel. 2.
Okay.
Did I say 2 billboards? Oh, sorry. Yeah, 3 billboards. Sorry.
And I was like,
I watched 2 billboards.
Is there another movie?
No.
I was doing
part of the Billboards cinematic universe.
Yes.
I watched. Here's a great left turn. I watched Tenet. I think.
Oh.
That's how it feels after you watched Tenet. In fairness. Yeah, and maybe you will one day.
What?
What?
I actually still haven't seen it.
Weird.
I
don't stop it. I don't. It's how.
I was actually very impressed with the censorship, like cutting in and out. That was very. That
was did
Chevy
also.
Chevy Chase and Spies like at lunch.
Yeah. We'll get back to you watching Tenet, but I did tell my audience that I would talk to you about this. That playing the medium. I just felt like you were a bit clingy, and that we maybe need to have more boundaries in our friendship.
Yeah, it's not a good relationship.
It was just like a bit much. I felt like you wanted to wear my skin, and I was like, Troy, can you please calm down here? Do we need to do the podcast bi-weekly?
Swear your skin sucked. I found you.
Was your voice not like heavily edited?
No.
Are you serious?
Nope.
That's actually his natural voice.
That's how he actually sounds.
He acts the part of Troy Baker for our benefit.
This is my wardrobe. They wanted to. We had a long conversation about the character, and it was like, what do you? It's like, first of all, we don't want it to be. We want it to be androgynous. We want it to be, presenting as non-binary, because it's not about being a male or a female. It's an entity.
Yeah.
And so they removed all references of he or she are removed from that, because when you play the game, you understand where the entity came from and how it can. So it's like, can you move? And we talked about maybe doing a layer and actually having 2 actors do it, to where there's like a male and a female. They're like, but then we have both represented, and that's not what we're going for. So it's like, can you do this androgynous thing? And I was like, let's find out what it looks like. And we spent a whole session just finding it. And they were really cool about it. Was like, it's coming across too creature-ish and everything. So we would pull it back. But really, by and large, we kind of kept the print and just moved through it, and they just let me go. And as opposed to taking it line by line, it was more about put me in the space and see environmentally what's happening and what are we trying to, what's the intention here. And it was a really cool challenge. It's one of those gigs where I walked in, I was like, yeah, I can do that. I think I can I do that? And it was when you're on and they're like, okay, we hired you, do the thing. I was like, fuck. What does this look like? And you just kind of close your eyes and do it. But they wanted specifically to not do like all of the tricks of like, everything that you normally use to create creepy voices. They're like, we don't do that. So it's like, we'll put you spatially in a place, and so we'll add some reverb and stuff and maybe do a little EQ. But by and large, they're like, we want it to be as organic as possible.
I said with such confidence, no, of course his voice is edited. Who are we kidding? Of course it is. Wow, that's crazy.
I don't want to kick the team down because they're like, you have no idea the amount of post-processing we did, but they specifically wanted to not have it come across that way. So I was even thinking as like, when I first heard it for the first time, I was like, oh, I thought you guys were going to like fuck with this. And they're like, no, we wanted this to believe that this came out of an organic being.
It's very unsettling. And someone, when I was streaming it, made the comment of like, why would you hire an actor like Troy Baker and then make him change his voice like that? And it was like, well, because they're not hiring him for his voice. They're hiring him for this creepy as hell performance. It's
why would you make Troy act?
Yeah, but he's got such a beautiful voice, you know? Why would you make him that? But it's very good.
It raises the question,
I like
actually.
Today's Show.
Is there ever, have you ever played a character that you feel like, never mind the writing for them, but just physically sounds, but you feel like you didn't really put anything on vocally? It just sounds like you straight on.
Yeah, I think Delson is pretty close to me. Reese is really close to me.
I feel like Booker sort of is.
I was going to say Booker also. That
Booker's, to me, Booker was, and Ken and I specifically worked. It was like there's a manner of speaking to him. There's a natural rhythm to speaking to him, and there's a quality that to me was a character that isn't me. But by and large, where it's just kind of like, just go, just see what happens. That really happened with Reese in Borderlands, because Nick and Pierre, the two writers, were just like, don't act, just go. Jonesy, Fortnite is 100% me, and we worked real hard, because at first they were like, this is what we want it to be, and then we got to these audio logs, and it was like, we don't have any animation, don't worry about it, just go. And I was like, I'm just gonna fuck with them. And we just went, and they were like, now we found the character. So Jonesy is just me. Just
have you ever, relatedly then, have you ever had a character that you really wanted to push somewhere and they walked it back through feedback until it eventually was essentially you talking? Like, have you ever been kind of iterated into...
How did you know I immediately looked at you, Mike?
I'm a smiling guy. I'm a happy guy.
Yes, Mike Bithell. I was like,
it ain't Hex.
What? Yeah.
Hex is not you speaking.
Oh, but as far as like just me,
acting,
no. Like we ended up, but like as far as like I want to go here with it, and Mike had so much more of a global understanding of the character and the story and where he needed to fit in. There's like, no, man. That's not, this guy needs to belong here, not here. And you're trying to put him here because you think this would be cool, but I need you to trust me that this is where the guy is.
Yeah, I get
it. It was tricky with Hex specifically because we had such an established world, and we had the cast as well from the movie. So like Lance and Ian, like we knew what they were doing, and I knew what the other voices in that room were, and and that's something, Troy absolutely gets. Not all actors do get that kind of collaboration, that kind of, yes, fighting your corner, but also being part of an ensemble, and kind of that's something that different actors are better and worse at, but Troy definitely gets.
I like this show a lot today.
It's a great show. It's a great episode.
I'm curious because I've experienced the closest analogy to that musically a bunch of times, where you start off with an idea that feels, bold and unique and whatever else, and then
Troy goes, "Can you just do these notes?"
And then Mike's like, "Stop it!"
Mike's
like, just chill the fuck out. That's
almost always. Well, that's the thing. Almost always with good reason, it gets into a place. But there definitely been times where you're like, I don't really recognize myself anymore in this music because it's been iterated to such a degree. That all the things I was bringing to it feel kind of lost. And now my job is to provide the score that my collaborator is looking for. So that happens sometimes. And it's, fair enough. Fortunately, it doesn't happen the majority of the times, but that's why I was curious if there's kind of the quasi, even though in a way what I'm describing is the opposite of that, where you feel like you built a thing and all that's left is you just talking, and how that might be somehow intrinsically less interesting.
Yeah. I mean, Bruce and Avengers was really just, and that was Sean and Skye going, you don't have to be Mark Ruffalo, you don't have to be anybody else. I really just want to see what you bring to this role.
I felt like he was Troy, but sad.
There's a lot of that.
That's just Troy. As soon as this podcast stops recording,
I can't. It's really interesting.
Especially this week.
I today's been an interesting week because there's been like.
Well, that sounds like Tenet talk right there. Today has been an interesting week. That's actually more like
Thank you, Christopher Nolan.
Austin. That was intentional.
That's some time dilation talk. So wrong Nolan movie. Sorry.
No, continue. This has been a week of like it's not often that I get put into a place where it's like, hey, we're really going to stretch you. And do you say that you want these kind of opportunities and you say you want this, but do you really think you can do this? And so I find myself squarely in the middle of it. And there's a quote by De Niro who's like, I hate auditioning. Because if I had to audition still, I probably wouldn't work because no one's good at auditioning. It's the worst part of the job. It isn't the job, by the way. Auditioning is not the job. The job is the job. Auditioning is just sometimes what you have to do. And so I've had to do things this week where it's like, remember that there's still these hoops you have to jump through. And I jumped through those hoops, and it's so funny because I walked into it thinking that I had to dress up and literally and create this whole thing. And I got to the other side of it. I was like, man, I do all this stuff that I say don't do. And what it ended up happening is the director was like, I just want to see you. I just need to see what you do and how you move in this space and how you not interpret this character, but just let me just see you for a second. And I was like, oh man, I forgot about that. So I think that there's I am just like any other actor, or all of us here, where there's a sense that I want to build this thing up so that I feel like I've accomplished something or that I've moved the needle forward or that people go, wow, that's impressive. But at the end of the day, every person that's on this right now is inherently really good at what they do. And what you naturally just bring to it is enough. You don't have to write the score to end all scores or create the game or write the game or code the game or write the shit out of a scene. It's just what you have a sensibility. You got the gig. Your life is your gig, and you got it. So just do that, and that is enough.
I don't know that I'm with you on that.
Oh,
I think that depends on the field.
Austin's got a really good idea for a one note that he can play.
I just set you guys up beautifully. You're like, nah, that's all bullshit.
No, I think generally I would agree, but I do know I don't even feel like that's a professional thing. I think that's a personality type thing. Like I know people who always feel like they have to do way more than they do, to the extent that it can actually lessen their intent. Like it becomes worse because you tried to do too much. Please just rein it back. And to the note of like what Austin's original question was.
There was an original question?
I don't even know really.
I think it had something to do with jumping on trains.
About being worked back. We have the opposite issue of that when I worked in games media, because I did do a lot of editing. Like Inside Gaming, I did so much editing of everyone's writing. And I did the same thing at IGN. And that's a really difficult game when it's with the journalism style of writing, of not making the edits that I want to make because I want it to read like I wrote it. And I've worked with editors who edit you way too much. And I'm like, okay, I get that you don't like this word, but you don't like this word because you don't like this word. It's not an issue with the word on a global scale. And then I felt like with a certain editor that I had started to write for them. I was like, I know which things they like and don't like, so I'm going to write for them instead of writing for the audience. And it can become this like really negative thing where you feel like you're actually just writing for one person. You're not writing as yourself anymore. You're not writing for an audience anymore. And I think when editing other people's work where writing is concerned, that's a really difficult game to play, to be like, do I like this? Is this just me? Or does this actually make the sentence clearer? And you can lose someone's voice so easily and so quickly.
What you're describing,
Rod, go ahead.
What you're describing is, I think, one of the single most common challenges for composition students.
Interesting.
When I got a classically oriented composition degree, which means that it's kind of the conservatory style model where you have these professors that are you end up with a private composition teacher where each week you bring them your music and they offer feedback. And the problem is that the old stereotype of like the ranks of teachers is populated by washed out professional failures. I've always hated that because teaching is such a crucial part of our society, and it's something that I've always enjoyed doing. I don't know if I'm any good at it, but it's something I enjoy doing. And I've had some phenomenal teachers, but boy, have I also had a few that struggled with exactly what you're describing, where, you know, like let's say I want to write a simple little piece, you know, it's just like, you know, here, isn't that nice, right?
It'd be a great piece of music, yeah.
And then I had this one
I'll be honest,
teacher.
I was a little disappointed, Austin. I was a little disappointed.
Well, you're a lot like my professor then, because
too simple.
The teacher that I had, he had the double whammy of being very frustrated with his own career and sort of took it out through his teaching. But on top of that, his father had been a pretty successful composer, so he had the extra bit of bitterness baked in as well. And so I remember I would play him some of the music I was writing, and he would basically say, you know, he would do things like this, where it's like, what if it was, you know...
His head would come off?
I know, Austin, you got decapitated by the Zoom. It took your head off.
There's no piano that he's
No, do it again, though. Can you play us a song? Because it actually looked pretty cool.
Sorry, that's really cool.
Oh, no, he came back.
And point being is he would be like, what if it was more like that? And I'd sort of like, why? And it's because that's what I like, and if I were writing it, that's what it would be. He wouldn't say that, but that's what he meant. It was, I don't know how to make your piece interesting, but I know how to make it sound like one of mine, which of course were not good. And so it's hard.
It's a real problem with the education system. It really
especially with the arts, you know.
I run into that all the time with my team. I have to work so hard to make them, especially with junior people, to make them unlearn that they just have to give me exactly what I want. It's like, you have been hired because you're better than me at what you do. Please, stop, trying just to give me what I want. And that's something that's often people come into the industry with.
That's writers is by the whole. Like there's a guy that I'm working with on a show, a brilliant writer, Ashley Miller. And I was like, how do you divorce yourself from the read that you wrote? The read that happened in your head when you wrote the line in the scene that you wrote. The reason why you're like, oh, and he looks out the window and he turns and he says, and you're like, fuck, this is going to be awesome. It compels you to write it. How do you divorce yourself from that version when the actor comes in and it's totally different? He was like, I understand that my job is to give you something that you can make better. And I remember the first director that I worked with, first big movie that I was on, first scene, big 2 or 3 page monologue, and I have a couple of lines, and I'm just sitting there watching. Steve's on wax loquacious, and he goes, we get done with the first scene, or we got the first take, and the director, Simon Windsor, is an Aussie, goes, P.I., which is my character's name. It's a great script. I was like, yes, sir. He goes, don't make it better. And I went, okay. And that was his first note to me. And there's I think 2 different styles where it's like, hey man, I need you to do, there's a reason why I want you to do this specifically. I need you to hit your mark exactly because I know I want that Blade Runner lighting to hit you right here. And I need you to trust me, versus someone going, I'm going to interpret your writing and I'm going to put it through my lens, and hopefully together we make something that's better than both of our perspectives. I don't know which is better. I really don't.
I think a skilled director can oscillate. I think a skilled director knows when he has to get you on the mark and knows when he has to get you more of as a collaborator.
To move between the two of those?
In my head, and I guess this is just the AAA space. I don't know if it probably wouldn't work for Mike, but if I'm writing a line that someone is going to read, that's in my head such a separate process. I'm not going to be there. I did my part. The rest of it is on everyone else. So I'm not even really going to connect those two things.
I had the opposite experience to Troy in a way that the first couple of things I directed, I tried. I remember. Was it Danny? It might have been Danny on Thomas Was Alone. I remember he read a line, and then I tried to give him a read, and he didn't like that. And that was the moment where I was like, oh, okay, I'm never doing that again in my career. Danny's a lovely bloke, but he made it, he let me know that, but then what was weird was then later on, because we'd opened that door, he did ask me for some reads on other things, but it was definitely I realized that that's a tension point, and that's something you build that respect with an actor. When I'm directing, I will often be quite quiet early on and just let the actor figure out what they want to do, and then you can kind of approach them. And that's, I think, a lot of video game direction for voice actors is what Troy alluded to earlier. It's the kind of, do me 3 reads of each of these lines. And I don't think that's a good way to get to the performance. I think often I like to just run scenes, or
some actors that drives me nuts.
Some actors want the three reads.
That's the way I've done it for everything that I've done that's been animated. And part of what I hate about that is that I don't know which ones they're going to pick. So being consistent, I find difficult. I'm like, but what was the tone of the previous one that you're picking?
To be consistent, right? That's the problem. You're
which
trusting
one?
that.
How do I stick to something?
That's a question you should ask. Go, okay, where are we liking? Did you like the A, the B, or the C? It's like, well, we're going to go with the B with the previous. It's like, okay, this line feeds off of that, right? So we need to match this. This B needs to be this B.
You can tell when the actor didn't ask that question, especially on giant RPGs where they just had to get through 20 million lines, and within one, like, adjacent sentences of a monologue, the emotions are jumping up and down, and the rhythm and everything, and you're like, what?
And that's never the actor's fault.
I was going to say
the actor's fault.
Well, I think the best voice acting that I've done was the.
Oh, you think that's not true?
There's a responsibility. Look, the actor was given the job to shepherd that character through that role.
But you can also allow for the scenario where the actor did, the A, the B, the A, the B, and they choose A of one and B of the other after the actor's gone. The actor,
absolutely.
Troy, you're arguing that you can kind of you're almost the first editor of your performance, right? You're making sure you're not giving the bad version.
The final edit. It's not my job to fix their game. Right? It's not my job to come in and fix their script, fix their story, fix their character. What I can do is lend my performance to it, or lend my perspective, and together, I'm going to quote Austin right now, and I even used this yesterday. My job, or my goal, is not the end result. What I'm selling is the process by how together we'll get there. That's what I do. It's like, give me a great performance. It's like, no. That's not what we're going to do. The end result could be the performance, but why you hire me is to make me an ad hoc partner in this. So we're going to do this together. But the actor, the writer, whoever is not responsible for the locked picture and the end result. What you are responsible for is going, hey man, wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't say, I need to know that these are the things that I need to know. And there's some people that don't need to know that. I think that there's a responsibility to the consistency and the continuity of the character to be able to go, did you go with A, B, or C? What are you leaning towards? Well, we don't know. What are you feeling you're going to go with? There's one that tickled your taint a little bit and made you stand up. And which one did you want to go with? As far as line
standard metric for evaluating.
No, but then Troy's removed from the project for sexual harassment every time. He's in more games than we realize. You just get kicked out of half of them.
I get fired. The goddamn taint tickle. There was a session that I was in once, and there was a very established actor, and the director gave him a line read. And the director said, I'm so sorry to give you the line read. It doesn't reflect on you. And without even looking up, the actor just went, oh, I'm fully aware that it doesn't reflect on me.
Wow.
And that's the truth.
Yeah.
And that actor was Troy Baker.
Troy Baker.
He slapped him.
Troy the taint tickler Baker. The truth is that it doesn't reflect on the actor. It does reflect on the director. If the director, the only way they can go is, just I'm going to use this cheat. That's fine if you do. There's like, would you please forgive me and allow me? I'm not able to articulate exactly what it is, but this is what I'm hearing. Would you mind giving this to me just so I can hear it? Sure, man, absolutely. But to go say it like this is exactly what Austin's saying, which is like, I don't know what your music is, but I'm going to make my music like this. This is what I would have written.
There's
just do it yourself then.
There's such better, more constructive ways than just do it like that. I've watched Troy direct and seen some of those in action, of these strategies of like, I need it to have a certain rhythm. So maybe it's about, can we just add some energy? Can we do this? And it's always about putting tools in the hand of the actor to
faster and
play
slower.
with.
That's what I was going to say. Faster, more energy. The George Lucas way.
Energy. Thank you, George Lucas.
Yeah. I think the best director that I've worked with, and it could be for a myriad of reasons, was Issa at Rooster Teeth, who helped me with the Monster Under My Bed short that I voiced a character for. And I feel like what got me about that was her excitement. Like on the other side, she was like, I love that one. And she would tell me that. Whereas like sometimes they're just like, B. And then they just move on. She was just like so hyped about what I was doing. But it was more than anything was that she gave me an emotional read at the beginning of each scene. She was like, this scene, this would be how you would be feeling. Like, this is what the character is going through. And I'm sure like a more experienced actor would be more collaborative with figuring out, well, why is this character feeling this way? But as someone who is really new, I found that so helpful to be like, okay, well, this is probably the tone of this. And it's like, okay, would she be feeling this for this reason? And then it's like a discussion at the start that made that so easy and so comfortable from top to bottom, where some other things have just been like, just say it. Just say it like you're not reading it. Okay?
Judith Weston, and I know, Mike, you're short on time too, so I don't want to get too long in this.
We never got to Tenet.
I'm good.
Or
Judith,
did we?
Judith Weston is a she has
nice.
There we go. Judith Weston is a great resource for people who either directors or actors. She talks about how result-oriented direction is the worst kind of direction. It's just the cheat. It's like, be angry. Well, what the fuck does that mean? My angry could be completely different. We are all different humans, and we express our anger, sadness, joy, everything in different ways. So instead, being able to say, here's a challenge. Don't let them leave the room. And that's the goal. It's like, no matter what, if they walk away from the room, and there was even stuff that we did on Shadow of War, is like, if I get to you, you lose. That's the goal. And the only way that you can stop me is with your words.
You know, it's funny, in that vein, I started watching this great documentary of, I'm blanking on the name of it. It's called, I think, What We Left Behind. That's about Deep Space Nine.
What We Left Behind, yeah.
What We Left Behind, yeah. And there's a great, where they're interviewing the woman, I'm blanking on her name, the actress who plays the original incarnation of Dax.
Terry Farrell.
Carrie Farrell, thank you. I had the Farrell.
It goes to it. Sorry.
Misspent youth. I could tell you like the name of any actor who played one scene in Star Trek. It's a problem.
No, it's very helpful in this moment.
She had a really tough time on that show, right? She was really
initially, the initial challenge that she had was that her character is a symbiont, which means that it's like this 1,000-year-old character that just happens to be currently occupying a girl in her 20s body, but that it's and what was brilliant about the premise of the character is that Sisko had this long history of friendship with the old man prior. What?
The guy who wrote the thong song? Cisco?
Yes, Cisco.
You're as bad as Troy.
I'm sorry.
That was my best day. And Cisco followed me on Twitter. Like, I
know.
I felt like I'd made
and I was
it.
like, maybe I do have dumps like a truck.
Maybe it matters.
Sorry, Austin.
Oh my God,
I'm very sorry about that one. That one was bad. Yeah. Go ahead.
But to that point about the actor like interpreting lines and interpreting in the they said that in the original readings that Avery, the character of Sisko, he was being so familiar and so congenial, and he has such a big presence, and he was also this veteran actor, and she was this young actress, and so she felt outmatched in the scene, and so every time he would be like, the whole joke is that she's this attractive, young 20s, and he always calls her old man. Because that's how he knows the character. Because to him, he understands the body is transitive or transient, and so he apparently would really play it up in the initial takes of kind of like old man, and she basically said, I don't have the confidence to meet you where you are in that way, but so I don't know that I can sell that my character just hears that and accepts that, and so they like work together, and he became this much warmer, like, old man, like, and it was a really interesting way to, because I had watched the show and think it's absolutely amazing. To me, it's peak Star Trek, but I'd never seen this documentary until just the last few days, and watching and realizing that there was a process between the two of them to work out that energy level just because of all the extraneous factors. It blew my mind. It really paid off too, because their dynamic is one of my favorites of the many great dynamics that show has. But that there's something so beautiful about packaging this old, respectful friendship through something that doesn't look at all like that.
As it turns out, collaboration good. We like
the title of this episode.
Now, I was thinking about maybe calling it "Jumping on Trains."
Jumping on Trains is great.
I don't know. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Play, Watch, Listen. I'm Alanah, PS video game writer. That's Troy Baker, video game actor. That is Austin Wintery, video game composer. And that is Mike Bithell, video game director.
You're pointing at yourself.
Stop. Troy, it's relative. The people see what I see.
You're like, and that's Mike Bithell.
Didn't I do that? I guess I technically am pointing.
Yeah.
And that's Troy Baker.
In a way, aren't we all Mike
One
Bithell?
and the same.
Like,
One and the same.
We're all a little bit Mike Bithell.
Are we finishing? Is this the
some
end?
other?
No,
well,
I
some
was
other,
going to ask if Troy wanted to talk about Tenet. If you want to do that, did you see it? You said you think.
Very quickly, I will
haven't
tell
seen
you.
it, for the record. I
Neither,
still haven't seen it.
neither.
What I sent Austin, as I'm off to do, I sent Austin a text. I was like, I just saw Tenet, and I feel like halfway through mixing the movie, Christopher Nolan just stopped and thought to himself, damn, this is a really good score.
I don't know why he does the audio mixes he does.
Dun.
No, it's not even that. It's just like,
It's all the time. It's so weird.
but I was like, he just kept like pushing the faders up like a 70s DJ listening to Skynyrd for the first time. He's just like, this fucking rocks,
You
man.
want to know?
He
You
just-
want to know a funny, true story of that happening?
Yes.
It's
He fell asleep on the faders and printed the.
you're not. It's not as far off as you think. One of my favorite human beings I've ever been able to be close with in my life, Kenny Hall.
Thank you.
Yeah, just right there, just right behind Troy Baker, a close runner-up.
Troy's heart broke.
You thought
Kenny
it was a
Hall-
Troy episode, not a Kenny Hall episode.
It's true. Well, for purposes of this conversation, we'll say that it was Troy, but just for the for the viewers at home,
Reality.
it's Kenny Hall.
Everybody will know what we're talking about.
Kenny was a music editor, worked on a gazillion movies, mostly with Jerry Goldsmith, but he worked with John Williams a few times. And interestingly, of the few, E.T. was one of them. And he was parallel working at the exact same time with Goldsmith on Poltergeist. So he was doing two Spielberg movies right on top of each other. And during the big bicycle fly in front of the moon sequence, this we've talked about it here before, this giant epic thing Williams recorded like a 12-minute single take and all, it's just madness. So Kenny is just so emotionally on board with this score. He thinks it's the best score he's ever heard in his life, and he's advocating for it. In those days, at the final dub, you would have the dialogue mix. There'd be one big console. You'd have the dialogue mixer, the sound effects mixer, and the music editor, all kind of representing their departments and sort of jockeying for who's
fun.
in dominant position at a given moment. And the main dubber apparently kept pushing the score down because it was like, well, we can't hear the bicycle wheels and we can't hear the this and we can't hear the that. And Kenny was like, it's not about those fucking things. Listen to this score. And you think that the bicycle wheel is going to be what sells this scene as Williams is, da-na-na-na-na-na-na. And so they're arguing and Kenny's quite upset. And, this was all proper analog gear. You set the fader, if you're going to do a print master, that's, it's like, it's not digital of just open up Pro Tools, click it, and you can change it on the fly and whatnot. It's all pretty delicate. So they argue. Then Spielberg comes in and says, show me the scene. And right as they hit play, Kenny just goes boom and hits the fader and yanks the score into the stratosphere. And then it was too late to change anything. They hit play, scene ends. Spielberg has tears coming down and goes, "Don't change a thing." And the guy just looked, and it's like Kenny outflanked him, and so it shipped that way. And John Williams won another Oscar.
Wow.
So yeah, I loved that. I love that Kenny basically he went with the nuclear option. He
I
literally
take back what I said earlier. Collaboration may be bad.
That didn't happen. That happens
an
over a
inconclusive
beautiful,
episode.
picturesque shot of a boy and an alien going across a silvery, moon, not in the middle of dialogue, expositional dialogue that's helping establish the world and the stakes.
No, but true. It's different from Nolan, but there are lines in the scene that are also getting bludgeoned. There are, it's obviously incidental. It's go faster and that kind of stuff. But like it's the idea was just let the score sell this, and the mixer didn't
Tenet
believe
is not
it.
ET. I told Austin this. I wish that Nolan would go back and make smaller movies, like not just Memento. Like Memento was
Did
a
you see
big
Following?
movie.
That was great.
That's exactly what I said. It's like, Go watch Following, and you look at this guy and go, holy shit, he's a great filmmaker. And he's not just like a great filmmaker. That guy was just being like, hey, here's some more lemons. Here's some more lemons. Here's some more lemons. You have no budget. You have no time. All you have to work with is splits for 16 millimeter film. You have no locations. Your actors decided to fucking shave or change their appearance halfway through shooting. Write it. He just dealt with all of these things, and he made a great, truly Hitchcockian thriller. Shot it in black and white. And they did it in like 6 weeks, but they shot it over weekends. It's fucking insane for no money. And
I love going back and finding those films. So like Brick as well, right? For Rian Johnson, like similarly excellent early work. Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it's like the sophomore project, like that first Coldplay record is, I mean, arguably Rush of Blood to the Head is a better album, but like the songwriting of Pearce, I don't care what you think about Coldplay. They're fucking great, dude. They're great songwriters. But like if it's Chris Martin especially, but if you just the stuff that was written from desperation, it's a place that I hope I don't ever lose. It's like, and I get to feel that again this week where it's like, hey, remember what it was like to like have an audition that you really want the role?
This is perfect.
And you're like, I don't fucking know if I'll get this or not.
You've perfectly encapsulated why I disagreed with your earlier comment when you said, you got the job, so you're probably good enough. It doesn't need to be the be all end all score you've ever written or performance. And yet I wouldn't have gotten the job if some point in the past I didn't put everything that I had into the prior works that maybe got me in this door.
That is
and I don't want to lose that ever.
But also, potentially, those desperate works were also better, right? I'm the guy who made Thomas Was Alone, which demo available now on Switch. But it is that thing of early on. I got it in there. I knew I would. That like I look at Thomas Was Alone often and go, was that like the best thing I'll ever make? Like, is that like
if you allow it to be? I think yes. Yeah. But what I'm saying is that character that I'm auditioning for, or having a meeting about, or the character that I'm playing, lives agnostic of my desperation for what I need it to be. And even the character even exists outside of what the director, what the writer, what the publisher, what the cinematographer, what the animator, what it
a character doesn't care how you feel.
It doesn't give a fuck. And that's the problem that's what I'm saying is like, have all your passions, and that goes into your preparation, that goes into all the work that you do, but the second that light is on, or those cameras are rolling, you go away.
But I feel like that's a distinction between process and motivation. Like you're basically saying, don't get so fixated on in the moment on how do I make every last little piece of what I'm doing the greatest thing that has ever happened. And you're saying that's noise in the moment when you're, in the line of fire and the mics are on and all that. That's just noise that's going to cloud up what you're doing. That's yes. when you hear the hesitation, in a performer, when something creeps into their mind as a musician or an actor or whomever, you can feel their brain suddenly split in two different places at once. That's different though than I want to make this everything. If I die tomorrow, this thing I'm doing today is a worthy last thing for me to have done in this lifetime. And maybe that just for you is all in the preparation. In my case, I mixed a score 2 weeks ago and I could have delivered it. And yet I'm like, you know what? I have the time. I'm doing 2 more weeks on these mixes because I know it can be better.
That
I do not envy the live performer. I do not envy the person like Troy who has to show up in the moment and deliver. I like the job where I get to have a bad day.
Pick at it endlessly.
Like we get to iterate too, though. You know what I mean? A perfect example is like we were talking about again this writer and showrunner that I'm working with, Ashley Miller. He goes some of the we were doing a writer's room and he asked everybody, if I asked each of you to tell me what the plot of Star Wars is, I would get as many different views or different opinions as there are people in this room. He goes, you would be hard pressed to tell me the plot of Star Wars without telling me about a moment, a line, or a feeling that you got when you watched Star Wars for the first time. And he said, and most of the lines that you would quote wouldn't even be from Star Wars, they'd be from Empire. I love you, I know, Empire. You're my, I'm your father, Empire. All of those are from Empire.
I don't think I'm your father is a Star Wars line.
I'm your father.
I'm your father.
I'm your father.
I'm your father.
Anyway, So what he was saying was that, and especially the "I love you, I know" was an ad-libbed line, and he goes, because in the script it's "I love you too." And I said, what I love about that is you watch Harrison Ford, and there's an excitement about him when he says "I know," when he knows what he's about to do is off script, and it comes up so confidently, but still there's like, I have no idea what's going to happen on the other side.
I always read it as compassion. I always read it as him saying to her, we've just spent the last 2 hours only doing one thing, which is fighting. And I want you to know that I understood it.
And not only that, but everything that you've said, everything that you've done, I know that you love me. I know it.
I don't know. I said that to a dude once, and it was just because I knew he had a crush on me.
I know it's terrible, but what I would take
that whole scene flashed before my eyes.
Drunk at a nightclub, and he was like, "I love you," and I was like, "I know." So, do you think I'm an idiot?
Thank you.
And then 1 second later, the gas shot up from below you, Alanah, and you were frozen in carbonite for the next 3 years.
Frozen in carbonite.
Exactly.
But the thing that
those crazy carbonite
I built off of that
in
is
Australia.
if you want to have a moment, if you want to ad-lib, if you want to go off script, you go, I have an idea. Because what Harrison Ford, the trepidation and the nervousness is not coming from his acting ability. It's the fact of, I have no idea. That could have been the longest day after so many setups, so many turnarounds, all the different problems. Maybe lunch was late. Everyone's tired. And you're going to ask the entire cast and crew to wait and go one more time through the scene so that you can say, I know. If you make that choice, that's the bar. That's the standard. It better change the character and be one of the most quotable, indelible lines from one of the most successful franchises ever. But if it's not, shut the fuck up and trust that the director says or you move on. And this coming from me, who always thinks he has a better take in him and always wants to change the line. I just realized if I want to change the line and go off script and ad-lib and come up with some ideas, I'm asking everybody on that cast and crew who may have to go to the bathroom, who just had a text, whatever, that they need to wait because my choice is more important than theirs. And if it is, then so be it. But it better be ready to change that character and change the story.
Okay, so Troy, how did you like Tenet?
There it is. This is better. You've been waiting longer than I was.
I definitely didn't really want to say that. Yeah.
I didn't.
People don't seem to like it.
It's a feat. It's an accomplishment of cinematography and filmmaking. Kenneth Branagh is just.
Is there anything he's bad in? To be honest,
no.
He's just a brilliant fucking.
He's always good. There's stuff that he's bad in, but he was great.
He directs himself badly, I think.
I don't. Did you watch?
The world must be peopled.
Did you watch Dead Again?
I've not seen that, man.
I think it's his first thing that he ever directed. Beautiful black and white noir thriller. It's great.
Fair enough.
Part of it's black and white. Sorry. I think he's a brilliant director. I think he's an amazing actor. I want to meet him. He does a great Russian accent. He is the best part of the movie. Somebody needs to answer that girl's call for help because I don't think she's well.
Is that a reference to something in the movie?
She's too thin. Like she doesn't look healthy.
The female protagonist.
Yeah.
Okay.
Noted.
It's not a body shaming thing. She doesn't look healthy. Is the problem?
She's looked like that
thin, but still healthy.
Many years in different things. I think
you can be thin and still healthy. Look at me. I mean, I'm a lanky dude.
Pretty lanky.
But she just doesn't look healthy.
Okay.
Look, I have to fight you on this one because you're not a doctor. That's my hot take.
I am not a doctor.
Not a doctor.
At all.
All right.
Actually, Troy did a full body mass index analysis.
Can I repeat what Alanah said and get credit for in the comments, please?
Yes.
It drives me fucking nuts. I love it when Mike says that.
Come
on!
I love it when Mike says that.
No, they do it, and I'll be like, I said it first.
It's the Mandela effect. No, Mike Bithell quote. I remember exactly when Mike Bithell.
The other day, someone was like, "Well, Mike said it more aggressively," and I was like, "Well, yeah, I'm a woman. I don't know what you want me to." Okay.
I remember when Mike Bithell was a woman.
Yeah, he probably said that too. I'm gonna love it when Mike says it. So
leaning your head.
We are on episode 49, which means next week's episode is a live episode.
Whoa.
For our 50th episode. I have some new merch that I'm going to drop, which I'm pretty excited about, that I will do while we're live. But I guess we haven't spoken about the time.
Do we know about
Yeah,
merch?
you've seen it.
We don't have merch. It's Alanah focus merch.
Yeah, it's just my face. Finally capitalizing on the face we should export to the aliens.
Yeah.
Jumping on trains.
Probably Tuesday? Tuesday?
I mean,
I think so.
That's the window that
I'm always available on Tuesday. What can I say? You know,
yeah, likewise.
I always got a slot.
I'm going to say it's going to be Tuesday from 11:30 to 12:30.
Is this a commitment to the time?
Wait, I thought it was 12:30 to 1:30.
You're right, it is usually 12:30 to 1:30. 12:30 to 1:30 next Tuesday Pacific time.
30?
And if we change that, I'll tweet it out. But that is the plan, that we will do it live on YouTube, so everyone can join in for another 10 episodes. 50 episodes, you guys. Wow, we're almost 52 weeks.
We've made
That's
it
not bad
longer
for a
than the
monthly
original
podcast.
Battlestar Galactica.
Like, that's like 10 years. That's 5 years of a monthly podcast, not 10 years. I can't count.
Classic
Do
programmer.
a podcast monthly. It'll be fine.
What?
Yeah, look at us.
Come to this podcast monthly and look at us go. Look at us now. Look at us.
Who would have thought? Who would have thought? Yeah, this is what you're doing with your Friday night, and we still haven't figured out why people don't move if they jump on trains. And I think that's what I have to title this
I had a
fucking
great time.
episode.
WandaVision was good. I got to watch WandaVision before we did this, so I'm happy.
You bastard. I haven't watched it yet.
People seem to really like it. I've also not watched it.
Good episode.
Yeah, you should watch it. It's fun.
No, I just mean I haven't seen this episode. Up till this point,
seen any of
I'm loving it.
I'm very curious.
It's really fun. Yeah.
Justin Timberlake or
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
getting sued now? John.
We've been demonetized because of that whistle.
Yep.
Yeah, we got demonetized last week because I started the episode with the fish fucking thing. So, you know, if it's Justin Timberlake that takes us down this time, doesn't seem quite as bad.
Did it really?
It got limited ads because you can't have a swear word in the start of a video, and I was like, I could take it out. I'm not going to take it out. Just committed to it. Too
That's
good.
so funny. Well, does that mean that there were less comments that were like, "There's 4,000 ads in this one"?
Well, yeah, the problem with that is that YouTube automates ads when you upload something. And because I always upload the show, it's never scheduled. It's always just immediately uploaded when it's done. YouTube populates it with the ads wherever it wants and as many as it wants. And you can't manually edit that immediately. So I will have to go away for an hour, and then it has 1,000 ads by the time I get back, which is the time that I can manually edit the amount of ads that are in it. It's a very stupid system.
Can we also explicitly state that we are not... The reason why we're fine with doing the no monetization thing is because we're not doing this for money. Like, there's no...
Oh, yeah. No,
we're not being paid.
No, the cost of the show doesn't even cover the cost of hosting and editing.
Am I doing this for free?
Or the other way around. The ads don't even cover the cost of hosting and editing the show every month. So the show, that's what it's intended to go towards, to even have those ads, is pay for the show, but it doesn't cover it.
And here I was just assuming that your background was a subtle suggestion of the kingdom you've purchased by embezzling our ad money.
Yes.
That's right.
Profiting greatly off of this show. That's and the merch all proceeds go to charity. So, you know, we're really out here being good capitalists. It's great.
Good capitalist.
All right, we will see you for our live episode next week, everyone. Bye.
Bye.